going live right now.
Awesome.
So while you're doing that, I'll just start in. Facebook, hi, it's me, Linda Marcus Smith. I'm here today again on Comic Spot, bringing you another great comedian for you to get to know, love, and follow. And we're going to explain how you can do that all within a short period of time while you're at home, maybe with your pants on. Who knows if we're adulting or not? There's just no accountability anymore, anywhere. So on Comic Spot today, we have a guest named Vickie Plummer. You see her over there with the beautiful hair and face and makeup, and then you see me. I look plain compared to her. It's okay. I get
That's not true.
it. Oh, I love your hair. Oh my gosh, you probably get thousands of compliments on your hair. Yeah, it's beautiful. So I just want to tell you guys that I do have a paid sponsor, which means I need to stop and thank them. And their way of being thanked is to tell you who they are. And so I'm going to do that right now. AhaBroadway.org is my sponsor. And I love them because they care about children getting into acting. They care about adults and seniors with acting, improv, and comedy. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Chris Murphy out on the East Coast, but Vickie Plummer probably has. He is a great headliner out, in a national headliner, and he is the coach for comedy stand-up at Aha Broadway. I'm a graduate of Aha Broadway. Look at how far it got me. I can do my own podcast. I'm kidding. You need to go to Aha Broadway and see what all they're up to, because they care and they provide great services, like I said, to children, seniors, and veterans. Yeah, so that's my paid sponsorship PSA. Thank you so much, Heather Edwards at Aha Broadway. But now for the moment you've been waiting for. I've been waiting for it because I've watched her flyers. I've watched her career. Oh yeah, I'm a stalker. I'm going to read you the intro. I asked for a braggy intro. So if you think that this might be braggy, it's because that's what I want. So here we go. I'm going to read Vickie Plummer's braggadocious intro that I asked for. Here we go. She says, braggy intro. Vickie Plummer has always been a late bloomer. From not getting her driver's license until she was 21, to not going through a growth spurt after graduating high school. So why wouldn't a stand-up career be different? A New York City comedian from 2000 to 2007, she took a quick break that ended up being 12 years. Coming back in January of 2019 meant starting all over. Challenge accepted. 2019 semifinalist in Empire State Stand-Up Showdown. Oh yeah, she showed them. Second round finisher in the National Gene Robertson Humor Competition. Side note, rest in peace.
Yeah.
We lost her this year.
Just recently.
Vickie Plummer almost fell over when she received an email only 8 months after being back to stand up from a casting director at America's Got Talent. They'd gotten her tape from a comedy festival that she hadn't gotten into. A comedy festival that she had not gotten into submitted her video to AGT. That's how good Vickie Plummer is. What?
I didn't get into the festival, but they sent it to them.
But they liked her and wanted her to record a specific audition tape. Very cool. She currently works in New York City at the West Side Comedy Club a couple times a week, which she loves. Side note, which I love. I love Felicia Madison. I love everybody at West Side. It's a great, great venue. She just got back from the Burbank Comedy Festival and the North Carolina Comedy Festival. And she loves working with her mentors and friends at the podcast called Drinks, Jokes, and storytelling, which can be seen on twitch.tv. She frequently appears on the podcast and special events that she produces, along with many live shows. You guys, what a treat it is for me to get to know, so you can get to know, love, and follow the career of Vickie Plummer. And now, here she is, Vickie Plummer. Woo! Hi.
Awesome. You're awesome. I love that intro. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for taking time to come on.
Oh, I thank you for asking me. And I think it's so fun that your sponsor is related to Broadway and that it does amazing things for kids, and for veterans and for adults. And a really interesting thing, Chris Murphy is the very first stand-up teacher I had in 2000.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that is so cool. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He wasn't my trainer because I went through there when Vanessa Hollingshead was doing their first trainer at AHA a few months ago, like a year ago. And now I missed out on getting Chris Murphy, but I hear he's fantastic.
Yeah, I had moved to New York in 1999, and I have a degree in musical theater, and I had toured across the country with Missoula Children's Theater, and it's where you bring sets, lights, costumes, makeup, and you go into a town and you cast 50 to 75 kids in the show, and you have 5 days to put together a full scale musical, and then you pack up the truck and you move to the next town and you do it all over again. And I loved that. It was the best. I got to tour across the country for 3 years and it was so much fun. But when I was 10, I said, I want to be a stand-up comedian. That's what I wanted to do my entire life. And there's no like way to become a stand-up comedian when you're in high school. And so I just went for theater, you know. And then when I moved to New York, I saw an ad, and the Village Voice doesn't exist anymore, but I saw this ad for stand-up comedy classes, and I was like, what? Oh my God. And that's the first class I took. I was at the New York Comedy Club, and he was my teacher. And he was really nice. And we learned how to, you know, write a joke, and we learned how to use material from our lives. And it was really fun. I got lost on the way to the club because I'm horrible with directions, and I ended up at a strip club on the other side of town. And my first joke was writing about how I got lost and ended up at a strip club. But he was really, really nice. So I think it's so funny that you mentioned that. And I was like, oh my God, I know him.
I'm very lucky that I found this sponsor found me and wanted to support. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I've been trying to get a sponsor and it couldn't be a better fit.
That's great. It's perfect. That's so perfect.
Yeah. Well,
That's awesome.
let's talk about you and the pandemic, and then we'll go through your life from early childhood up till now. But first, I just want to know, what part of the East Coast do you live in, and what was it like specifically to you and your family going through the pandemic? If you don't mind, anything you want to say.
Sure, yeah. So I used to live in Astoria, New York, and I moved to Bloomfield, New Jersey, which is 10 miles outside of the city. And I moved here the fall of 2018. And I'm so glad that I had moved from my tiny basement apartment before the pandemic, because I think I probably would have lost my mind if I was in that little shoebox, you know. But I live by myself. I have a guy that I've been dating almost 4 years now, and he lives, you know, Jersey City. It's not too far away from here, but it was hard. I was by myself. My family lives in Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, and so it was difficult. And the comedy clubs closed, and then 4 days later, I lost my full-time job. And so I felt really out of sorts because it was like everything was closed. My family was nowhere nearby. I didn't have a full-time job anymore. I couldn't go do stand-up. I felt like I had no purpose. So for the first 3 months, I just felt kind of like adrift and didn't know what to do. And so then actually stand-up comedy kind of saved me. because I got an email from the Burbank Comedy Festival and they said, "Hey, you got accepted." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "How are we going to do this?" And it was online. And I went, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that." But then I said, "Okay, this is something you got to work on." And so that helped me to write jokes and work on new material. And I got to do Zoom and I learned how to do that. And I met comics and I met people from around the world. And that really actually helped with my career. So that was a saving grace.
It has helped comedians with their comedy and with their career. And I feel bad I understand the opposite feeling against Zoom, but I feel for comedians who missed out on so many opportunities to make connections.
Definitely, definitely. It just really helped me with writing and with meeting people, and when you're by yourself and you're in the middle of this, who knows what is happening, and you can't see your family. And every day you're turning on the news and it's like bad news and they didn't know what was going on from day to day. And it was really nice to be able to go to an online mic and hear what people were writing about and meet new people. And it was nice. And I had a schedule again. I was like, oh, well, on Tuesdays, I have the 3 o'clock mic at the West Side I'm going to go to. And then on this day, and it was good to get my brain to start writing again and working on things like that. And so it really saved me. I could have turned right around and said, okay, well, I'm just going to get in my bed and put the covers over.
Yeah.
But I got my health under control. I've lost 73 pounds. And
What?
yeah. So I look completely different. I feel so much better. I was in what's called a flare-up mode. So I'm a thyroid cancer survivor. I have Hashimoto's disease, which is where your body thinks your thyroid is like a foreign thing. So I always call, do you know that video game Space Invaders? It's where you have little things that you shoot and you get rid of things. Well, that's what I feel like my body's doing with your thyroid, like it's shooting it and getting rid of it. And your immune system doesn't want things there. So it attacks it and it makes you not feel well. So last summer, I just had like my face kept turning red and my eyelashes, you can't really see, but they fall out. So I have mascara on them, but there's big chunks that are gone, and my eyebrows, this eyebrow pencil, but they fall out and your hair falls out and your skin is all messed up. And so I was in what's called a flare-up mode, and you couldn't go to the doctor here. So it was on telehealth, and I had to say, what do we do? How do we fix this? And so I got recommended to another doctor, and he was wonderful. And he right away was like, "Do you get migraines?" And I said, "Yeah." And he put me on a migraine medication. And the second those started to go away, it just started to help me. And I went on a new diet where you take away certain things to take away inflammation. And my health just got so much better. So the pandemic was awful in so many respects, but I literally turned my life around. And stand-up was a huge, huge thing that helped me steer the way. So
Wow.
Answer for you. That was a very long answer, but
Oh, I love it. I mean, you're great to interview. So many people just have one word answers, and it's like, hello, we have to stretch this out.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to little Vickie Plummer. Oh, by the way, one little side note. Are you related to the man from Sound of Music?
I'm not, but it's spelled the right way. It's spelled, not like a plumber who fixes toilets, right? So
leave it to me, a baby boomer, to remember him.
Oh, I love him. Christopher Plummer's the best. And, I have a lot of people that ask that question.
Good.
Are you related to Von Trapp? Captain Von Trapp? No. But he's awesome. He's wonderful. I love that movie.
Yes, I can do an impression of the entire Von Trapp family singers.
I want to hear it.
It's after they won the Austrian Film Festival and they were called to come out and nobody saw them. That's one. I can do them. It's spot on.
I love that chubby lady that keeps taking a bow that has like the buzz and she's just like when I was a kid, I was like, I want to play that part.
That was so cool. And that was a great callback for comedy. Great comedy moment. Vickie Plummer, growing up in your household, in your school, what was it like to be your friend and your sibling or child? The child to be the parent of Vickie Plummer.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what my report cards used to say. They used to say she's a social butterfly and she needs to, be quiet. I always was being told I was too loud and I ran around too much and, I was too this, too that, and that used to drive me crazy. But my mom put my sister and I in a summer theater program when we were kids. And there was a teacher at our school, her name was Mrs. Erickson, who became my mentor. She was lovely. I absolutely adored her. All the way through college, I would go and visit her. If it wasn't for her, I don't know if I would be doing what I'm doing now, because she was one of the only people that believed in me, because we didn't have a drama program. We just had her. But so we were very active and always created characters, and we watched a lot of stand-up. I love Steve Martin. I loved Robin Williams. Carol Burnett was my favorite, my absolute favorite. So I was always running around, creating characters myself. And I had tap shoes, and I would pretend to do the dances and stuff at the fireplace where it was brick. But yeah, always active, always running around like a crazy person. I got made fun of a lot in school because I was really into theater. I was really into show tunes, and a lot of the kids in my town were not. So they were like, "What are you singing?" Fame. I'm singing Fame. And they're like, "What the hell is that?" But I also was one of the only ones in my town who is doing what I said I wanted to do. And so I stuck to my guns. It took me a while, but I'm doing it. So
That's so great. So this lady, what was her name again?
her name was Natalie Erickson.
Is she still alive?
No, she passed away, I want to say maybe 10 or 15 years ago, but she was so awesome. She was so eccentric. She had this beautiful old house, and her attic was full of costumes. And so it was in vintage clothes from like the 1920s all the way through like the 1980s. And she would invite us over after summer theater, and we would get to go try on all the costumes. And oh my gosh, her grandkids would come and live with her for the summer, Mike and Anne, and we'd all try on the costumes. And oh my God, it was the best. She was lovely. And her husband was so sweet. And he passed away before her, but it had to be like 10 or 15 years ago. But she, even up until she passed away, she was in a senior center for a little while, but she didn't like it there, so she escaped out the window. And she wrote a story about it. And I went to visit her, and she read the story to me, and I was like, "Natalie, you can't leave," And she's like, "Oh, I'm not staying," I adored her. She was just great.
She's an inspiration. Just hearing about her inspires me.
Yeah, she was awesome. She was a lovely, lovely woman. I adored her so much.
I'm not that far away from going into assisted living. I'm 70 years old. And what I plan on doing is pretending I have dementia. So I know what they're saying about me.
Right? You just act like, I don't know what's going on. You hear everything. You're like, that's not going to happen.
Tell them the same story over and over and just watch them roll their eyes. I'll get revenge. I don't care. So you went through grade school and high school with her inspiration.
Yeah.
And in 2000, you started doing comedy. You actually signed up. The very first thing was signing up for and showing up at a strip club, and then realizing you needed to go to the comedy club where you were being taught by Chris Murphy. And then tell me about was there a graduation show he put on, and how did that go?
Yeah, so it was a class that I took at the New York Comedy Club, and if anyone's ever been to New York, the New York streets are set up like a grid, and Fifth Avenue divides east and west. Well, if you're not good at directions like me, I went the wrong direction, so I was over on the other side of 24th, and that's why I ended up in the wrong place. But yeah, it was a class where you went. I think it was once a week for 6 weeks, and he taught us the basics of, premise, setup, punchline, that sort of thing. He taught us like how to hold the microphone. If you didn't already know how to do that, I already know how to do that. And how to write material based on your life so that you weren't trying to be somebody else. Like he wanted you to mine material from who you were as a person so that you weren't just standing there spitting out stuff about like, oh, let me talk about smoking pot. Let me talk about this and that. Like he wanted you to be unique and who you were, which I really appreciate. And yeah, we had a class show, and it was, I just remember, I'm sure it was horrible. I'm sure it was absolutely horrible, but I just remember that feeling was such a really amazing feeling. I know you know it when you get that first laugh when you're standing by yourself on that stage, and it just was so great. And I remember the guy that was running the club that night came over and he was like, "You did a good job. You should come back, and you should, come and do some more shows." And I was like, okay, and this was all bringer shows, of course, where you bring the audience with you and everything. So I just kept doing as many shows as I could and went to mics, and I started doing all that kind of stuff. And I kept doing shows. I was working full time at a bar and a restaurant, and so I fit in as many things as I could possibly do. And I was coming up with Jim Gaffigan was not super famous at the time. He was about to break free. He wasn't married. He didn't have kids or anything at the time. He was the nicest person in the world. I remember him coming over with a pad of paper one night, and he's like, I'm about to launch my website. Do you want to sign up so that you can, get updates? I was like, yeah, sure. And he would give us feedback when he was headlining the show for us. And he'd be like, I really like that joke. You should try this as a tag. And very sweet, really nice. And I remember doing a show with Paul Verzi, and he and I both came in as finalists on that show as Beecher's Comedy Madhouse. So I always wonder if I didn't leave where I'd be right now, but that's stupid thinking, because I was supposed to stop and live my life for 12 years and then come back. That's how it's supposed to be,
Yes.
So
I started comedy when I was 63. So
good. That's good.
I get that stinking thinking a lot too.
Yeah. I always wonder, but then I'm like, no, I had to have lots of things happen in my life and have that experience. And then I really appreciate what I'm doing now, because I missed it a lot, but yeah. I love it now. I talk about real stuff now. I'm not like surfacey,
Yes. Talk to me and people watching. A lot of people watch this after the fact rather than in the moment, but you've been doing acting. You've been on stage. You've helped children be on stage across the country. You are doing stand-up. You've been doing it, even though you took a break. You did it a long time ago. You're doing it currently. So could you speak to people watching about the length of time it takes to be comfortable in your skin and to develop a persona, those kind of things?
Sure. I know part of the reason why I took time away was I was not comfortable in my own skin. And I was very uncomfortable with the atmosphere here in New York City, because that was 2007 when I decided I'm going to take a little time away. It was very male-centric. It's still pretty male-heavy, but the Me Too movement hadn't happened, So it was very male-centric, and it was I was also very, very overweight and unhappy with myself. And men, this is just a generalization, but a lot of the male comics at the time were, very dismissive of women and very, hey, baby, and I didn't get looked at like that at all. And I was not considered pretty. I was not considered sexy, any of that kind of stuff. And so for me, I felt very uncomfortable in general. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and so I just didn't really dig deep enough to tell the jokes that I really wanted to tell. And so I was like, I got to take a little break away from this, because I was kind of scratching the surface of what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't think the audience was going to accept me that way. So I was like, I got to work on myself, So I went to therapy, and I really dug deep down, and I had to do that. I had to work on myself. I had to work out demons. I had to work out a lot of crap that I hadn't dealt with, because you can only push things down so far without dealing with it. And once I did that, and I became a happy person again, and I dealt with so much crap that I thought, oh, I can just push it away. You can't. You have to work it out. You either become a really depressed, drugged out person, or you become your real you again, So once I did that, then I was like, okay, let's get back to it. And I think that's why when I came back to it, I still had that foundation there. I didn't have to learn how to be on stage again. I already had those skills. I just had to wake them back up again. And I had to write new material, because I threw all my old material away, because it's still there. I still have it, but I wanted to write authentically. And I would say it takes 10 years. It takes you 10 years to if you've never done it before. It's not instant. I see a lot of young kids like thinking it's like America's, American Idol, that you're going to instantly get noticed and you're going to become famous. If you're looking to become famous, don't become a stand-up comedian, because it's not an overnight thing. It's not something you can practice in your bedroom with your hairbrush. You need an audience. You need that real feedback, and you can't do it in just a group of front of your friends, because your friends are going to tell you you're hilarious and funny, and they're not going to tell you the truth. You need to be thrown in front of a group of strangers, and you have to be repetitive. You've got to do the same thing over and over and over again. And sometimes it's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. And sometimes you may think you're saying it exactly the same way that you said it, and you're not. And maybe it's because in your head you're bored with it, or you're pausing a little because the last time you did it you bombed. So you're kind of worried, and you're like, oh God. And the audience can tell that right away. And they're like, what's wrong with this person? So they're not laughing because they're not feeling it from you. And one thing that I always feel people don't always understand is stand-up is not you trying to make people laugh. Stand-up is you having a conversation. You and the audience are having a conversation, and what you're doing is connecting with them. And somebody told me once that, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Jim Mendrinos who actually said this, that a lot of times you're not talking about something specific that the audience went exactly through, that you went through that exact same thing. It's the feeling that they relate to. And so they're saying, oh, I know that feeling. I relate to that feeling. And a lot of times it's an uncomfortable feeling that they laugh at, because they recognize that feeling and they go, oh, I know that, I get it. And then they laugh, and they're not laughing because it's funny. They're laughing at the uncomfortableness of the feeling. Does that make sense?
It does. I like that. That's a good nugget for us to pick up today.
Yeah.
Like that. Well, what are your goals in the near future and for the rest of your life in comedy and acting, improv, teaching? What things are you trying to accomplish? What do you have coming up in the near future, and what things do you want to accomplish in your lifetime?
Well, when I was younger, I would have been like, oh, I have to be famous. I really want to be famous. That's when I was like, 15. I got to be famous. It's not that anymore. I don't give a crap if I become famous or not. That seems like kind of crazy, doesn't it? You see what people go through and you're like, oh my God, people following them around and sounds horrible.
And the drug abuse.
Right. Oh, it just, what's important in our society sounds kind of awful to me now,
Exactly.
It just seems crazy. But what I really, really love is I just love connecting with people and making them laugh is just the joy of being together with people, especially after this awful lockdown and the pandemic that is still dragging on and on and on. That I'm like, is this ever going to end? You don't realize how important people are in your life. And this really, really made it so big, And part of the reason why I came back to stand up full time was, God, I try to make this not depressing, but
don't worry, I'm a big Debbie Downer. Don't worry.
So in 2013, I got diagnosed with cancer. And 3 weeks later, I got a DVT blood clot in my right leg. And I was just like, I'm not old enough for that. I knew nothing about DVT blood clots. I was like, I thought only old people got these. I was like, this is not right. To make a long story short, that entire year, literally every few weeks, something else was going wrong. And so in July of that year, I had already had my thyroid taken out 3 weeks before. Finally, the blood clot was like almost dissolved. I'd had all this crazy stuff happen, like passing out in front of the hospital the day I was supposed to have surgery. So they wouldn't let me have surgery and all this crazy stuff. I was in the hospital for an infected gallbladder and pancreatitis. And the second night I was there, I almost died. And so it was just awful. It was just awful. So it gave me a really new appreciation for just being here. And I had this corporate job that I actually really loved. But at the same time, I was like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I had pushed aside stand up because I was like, well, this has insurance and this has a 401k. And, and I was just like, So then the summer of 2019, I was in a horrible car accident and I had come back to stand up and I was loving it. I was absolutely loving it. But this corporate job, I had 2 phones. Everyone had my text messages and emails and it was literally like more than 40 hours a week. I want to say it was at least 60, 70, 80 hours a week, constantly doing this work. And I was in this horrible car accident where a tractor trailer smashed into my car, spun me around 2 times, and I literally heard out loud, turn into the skid. And I was like, okay, turned into the skid and was able to pull off the road. Unhurt, walked out of my car, walked over to the driver. It was pouring rain in the dark in Massachusetts. Walked over to the driver who had not gotten out of his truck, his big ass truck, and I drive a Honda Fit. And I was like, are you all right? And he's like shaking like a leaf. And he's like, yeah, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I didn't see you. I was like, okay, should we call the insurance companies? So the next day at the body shop, the guy is walking around my car and he looks at it and he just goes, I have no idea how you're alive. And he said, the way the guy hit you, his wheel cut into your door in the perfect placement that you did not flip over. And something just went through me where I went, I'm quitting my job. Life is too short.
That's funny.
It was like, I can get another job. I'm out of here, And I put my notice in like a couple weeks later. I gave them 6 weeks notice. I didn't have a safety net. I was like, I'm done. And of course, the pandemic came like 6 weeks later. I had gotten another full-time job with insurance and benefits, but it was remote. And they knew I was a comedian and they knew I would be able to take my computer with me and go places and all of that. And like I said, I've turned my life around and changed things. But that was a decision where I just said, do I want to like continue to work like 80 hours a week and not be doing what I really want to do? No, because that just was like such a wake up call that life is so short. You never know what's going to happen. You can't plan. You can try to plan. You can't plan. Things just happen. And you just got to roll with it, you know? And I just said, I'm going to just do what I really, really want to do. And, you know, that's the worst planning that people tell you not to do. I don't care. And so now I've never been happier. I have 4 jobs. I have a full-time job that is working from home, and it's remote, and I take it wherever I want.
What do you do on your remote work from home?
It's business development. So I literally call companies and email companies and try to put them together and be like, hey, do you want to meet with this company? They have a solution that you might love. And then that's it. And I have 2 different campaigns that I work on, and it's great. It's literally like stand up. You talk to them on the phone. You want them to like you. You try to connect with them. If I can get them to laugh, I know I can set up a meeting. That's it. That's all it is. So
that's so cool. That's encouraging. Oh my gosh. Did you guys hear that? If you can connect with them, you can make a sale. That's so true. If you can make them laugh, you've got them. You've got them. Wow.
yeah.
I love all your tips on connecting and being authentic. I once was in a class, and at the graduation, I spewed out all my jokes. And on the ride home, a headliner who was my roommate drove me back home and said, have you ever thought about what it is to be authentic? That's not good feedback.
Oh my God. I think a lot of times people get stuck on trying to be funny. And many times that's not funny. You're just, what's funny is real, being real. And have you ever had people say to you, like, when you're not trying to be funny, oh my God, that is hilarious, and you're trying to be serious?
Yeah.
And maybe you're talking about something that is actually painful and they're laughing. That's authentic. That's authentic. And that's something you can't really teach somebody. You know what I mean? So, and if you're just telling the truth, that's when the funny comes.
Absolutely. That was really hard feedback to get, but it's the best feedback I ever got.
I bet, because then you go back and you examine and you look at yourself and you say, how do I do these jokes that I wrote, and just strip away the crap and do it in a way that's real, because then you're going to get the laughs. You're going to get the audience cheering for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to know where my people can follow you on social media, and what shows you have coming up on Zoom or live that they can go to and watch and support you.
Oh, cool. So on Instagram, I'm Vickie Plummer Comedian, and it's Vickie, because Vickie's spelled like 40 billion different kinds of ways, you know? So, and then on Facebook, it's Vickie Plummer, Vickie. Those are the only social media things that I have right now, because social media is overwhelming to me. There's so many. So I just have 2 right now. And then
the Twitch show, remind us about that.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone has watched it, but it is so much fun. It's called Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. And it's Mark Riccadonna and Richie Byrne. And Richie Byrne is the warm-up comic for Dr. Oz. And right now he's filling in as the warm-up comic for the Drew Barrymore show. And Mark Riccadonna is, he just filmed a pilot for TV with Joe Mantegna. And they both have toured across the country, and they both have entertained the troops. And they are awesome. They're so funny. I adore them. And so what they do is on their Twitch channel, I think this is their 7th year that they've had their podcast, but this is the first year that they've had it on Twitch TV. And so they have different guests on, and they have comedians, they have actors, they have Broadway performers, all different kinds of people. They interview them. It is hilarious. It's awesome. And then I've done special events with them where I've put together like marathons where we raise money for Save the Children. And we bring on a bunch of different comedians to do that, and we'll run it for 12 hours straight. We did a show that was when FX had that, I'm trying to remember what it was called. They had the documentary that was on FX that was all female comedians. It was in the spring, Hysterical. And so I got together a panel of female comedians, and we did a special 2-hour show that we talked about that, reviewed it, and it was really great. And so then we're doing a live broadcast of the podcast this Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the West Side Comedy Club. And we have Tom Cotter, who was on America's Got Talent. He was the almost won. He always likes to say he came in second to a dog. So he's our guest. And Kathy Fitzgerald, who just came off of Wicked on Broadway as Madame Morrible from that. She also was in The Producers on Broadway and the movie The Producers. She's our other guest. She's going to sing, and she's hilarious. So that's happening on Wednesday at West Side Comedy Club. So that's going to be really fun.
Wow. I would love to have you and your partners on the Twitch TV show come on and promote that.
Oh, that would be great. It's this coming Wednesday. So you tell me, like, if you have space tomorrow or later today, and I'll get them together. I'll be like, what are you guys doing? So
I have time later today. I could do 3 or 4 p.m. Pacific, which would be 6 or 7 Eastern. If they could come on, I would promote the heck out of that.
Okay, let me send them a text when I'm done with this, because I know they just had their live broadcast. I think it just ended. So I'll send them a text and see if they can do it. That'd be great.
Yeah, and if not today, another time, but I'm sure wide open to it today.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, gosh almighty, you have been a delight to get to know. A lot of your health scenarios are not Debbie Downers to me, because I got hit and I had brain trauma from a drunk driver, and I had a DVT in 2004 when I was barely considered a senior.
Oh my gosh, isn't it the worst? Because you feel like you pulled a muscle. I thought I pulled a muscle from working out. And I was like, what do you mean I have a blood clot? I didn't think you could get one when you weren't an old person. I had no idea what it was. Now they're trying to educate people more. But at the time, there was not a lot of information. So I'm glad you survived, because those things are dangerous.
Yeah, and I've had more, my body makes blood clots. And
mine does too.
I was interviewing Eric Rivera at a comedy club, and I got this great big knot. I felt this ping in my arm, and I had a great big blood clot pop up in my arm, an artery burst causing a clot in, like I am a walking blood clot.
Yeah. I found out that I have this thing called factor V Leiden, which is a blood clotting disorder. You do too? Oh my God.
Sisters.
No, I had no idea I had it. I was like, what do you mean? I had no idea. And so I had to get my family to we tried to figure it out, where it came from. They've all been tested and no one else has it. But we think my mom's sister, who passed away before I was even born, we think that she carried it because she died 2 days after she gave birth. She had an aneurysm. And so we think that she had it. But yeah, oh my gosh, it's crazy. When did you find out? When you got the first blood clot that you had it?
They took me to the hospital and tested. They love to find out why you had the clot, because if it's hereditary, you have to have blood thinners forever.
Yeah.
And so they found out I have factor V Leiden, and it's like, wow, that's crazy. And turns out 1 in every 20 people have factor V Leiden.
Yeah, and I had no idea until that happened. So I'd been walking around. Thank God we know now, because you were in the car accident and stuff. If I wear this little bracelet, because what if we're ever in an accident, you'll not stop bleeding now that you're on blood clotting? I'm on Eliquis. Are you on something like that?
They have me on a daily pill. I can't remember the street name for it, the real name, but the VA hospital, they didn't want to give me a monthly blood thinner, so I get a daily dose because I have so many allergies to You don't even know what Debbie Downer is till I start talking.
Yeah, I'm on Eliquis that I take twice a day. And thank God, because the other one I had to inject myself in my stomach. And that's no fun. I sat there crying. I was like, I don't want to do it, like it was awful. But now going to the hospital all the time, now I go and I like wet my clothes off. I'm like, you want blood? You want urine? What do you want? What else do you need? So.
My least favorite thing is when I go to donate blood and they get the tourniquet thing around, that rubber band thing, and then they go off to text somebody and look at Facebook. I'm like, get your behind back here. I have blood clot. You're not leaving that sucker on me.
Oh my God. And I know exactly what I'm like, take it here. I just tell them, and sometimes they won't believe me. That's too high. I'm like, no, that's where you need to take it. Take it right here. And otherwise I'll be like a pin cushion because they can't get it out because I have little tiny veins.
I tell them, look, do me a favor. If you don't find it, do not go fishing for it. Go fish for somebody else to do it.
That's the worst feeling when they stick it in and they're moving around. I'm like, don't do that. Have you ever done that before? That's the worst. It feels awful.
I just want to throw up. Stop it.
No, and sometimes like you get a tentative one, like just got out of school. I'm like, oh no, you need to just jam that in there, girl. Just put it in my arm. No, well, I don't want to just poke it in me. Just do it now. Like
that I went to the VA and this guy poked me the last time I was there. And I said, it was, it was just amazing. He was so good. And I said, I don't know if you want to hear this, but I didn't feel a thing.
That's an instance that he does want to hear that, but many other instances he doesn't.
You've been such a delight. I'm so glad I got to know you. And I'm sure the people that watch this after the fact are going to fall in love with you and want to support your career. So thank you so much, Vickie Plummer, for coming on the Comic Spot.
Thank you. Linda, you're awesome. I'm so happy you asked me to do this. I remember doing a Zoom show with you, God, way over a year ago, and I just thought you were hilarious and so fun. So I really appreciate you asking me. This is great.
Thank you so much, Vickie Plummer. I love you lots. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.